What does it mean to live life to the fullest, train to your potential, and perform at your best?
Leave nothing on the table. That's a non-negotiable, is that I strive to be better every day. Because if I'm not on top of my game, how's anybody else going to follow me down the road?
Keep demanding more of yourself to live up to that potential and to stay hungry.
Training is progress. You know, when I look at the word training, I think of steps, baby steps to get somewhere that you want to be. And that is basically your life journey.
It's a mindset in itself, man. It's like, it's not just about, I know that for you, a lot of that's about the physical, but we're constantly in training, whether it's growing our skill sets, whether it's growing our physical bodies, whether it's growing our relationships, whatever. And all of that's a training ground. And that kind of goes back to the mindset that we just talked about.
You underestimate yourself and you don't even start. But then once you start, you often surpass what you thought you could do.
Perform at your best, mate. That's sort of what life is all about. You know, I want to have the knowledge, I want to have the fitness, the health, the ambition and drive that no matter what comes along, when that next phone call comes, I can just say yes. I don't have to worry. Just go and do it.
Hey guys, welcome to the Live, Train, Perform podcast. I'm your host, Sean Kober, and joining me today is my man, Simon Hall from Bali. How are you, brother?
I'm great, mate. How's well, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? We've seen each other from screens. I'm not used to not seeing you in Thailand, in Tiger. It's weird.
Yeah, man. How long's it been since you've been here? It's been a while.
Well, I've been here now a year and a half. I had a bit of an issue where I had to get back to England and then get back. But yeah, it's about a year. I've just called it like forced seclusion. Just go off the grid, hide in a jungle somewhere.
Yeah. That's your jam, though. You enjoy that, don't you?
Yeah, I think I'm very similar to yourself, mate, where I kind of thrive. If the world shuts down, I thrive in my own little bubble, if that makes sense. I can just go in, start doing my own little things. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of played me to my strengths, really, if anything, everything that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about some of the things that you've been doing over the last year in particular, but, you know, all of the things that led you down that path and has allowed you to kind of thrive over the last year. But for those people that have been listening to the podcast for a while, you've kind of got Simon here to thank for that, partially. Probably about a year and a half ago, probably right before you left Thailand, actually. I heard that you had your own podcast, and I was thinking about kicking off my own, and myself and Tristan came and sat down with you, and you gave us a quick rundown of, you know, what to expect and to start working towards, you know, things now and building a plan and you know, that type of stuff. And that kind of got the ball rolling for me, man. And around about this time last year, I flew back to Australia. Luckily, I, you know, got back to Thailand right before everything locked down, but I had 6 weeks off. And whilst I was back home in Australia, I actually bought a heap of podcasting equipment with the intent of, you know, doing my podcasting course, learning the ropes, just kind of figuring shit out as I went. And as it turns out, I got back to Thailand, everything locked down. I was like, right, now's the perfect time. I've got all this time. I don't need to, I can't fucking leave my house. So I'm going to pivot and I'm going to learn how to do this shit on the fly. And man, I think I'm about 80 episodes in now. And I look back at some of those first episodes, and I mean, some of the first episodes is like really fucking good content, but you know, I look back and I'm like, I'm probably going to need to redo those again at some stage because I was super nervous and I, you know, didn't really know what I was doing with, you know, microphone technique and that sort of stuff. So, you've actually got your own podcast, Nourish Life. We're going to discuss that in a moment, but can you give my audience a little bit of a background of who you are, what you're doing now, and what your podcast is about?
Yeah, for sure. First off, mate, complete acknowledgements. I completely forgot about us sitting down and having that meeting. It just sparked off my head. I was like, oh my God, we did. And then I remember the day you pulled the trigger. I was like, oh, he's going in.
Yeah. But, oh, dude, I appreciate it, man. Like your words of knowledge from someone that's, you know, gone long before me and, you know, made all those mistakes and you passed on those lessons to me. And I was so appreciative, bro.
Have you listened back to your first episode? Like completely? You're just like, oh.
Oh, not for a long time, man.
Oh, yeah, just do it. It's fun.
Mate, yeah. Dude, the first probably 30 or 40 episodes, like I listened back to every single episode once it dropped. But I haven't listened since because I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to fucking listen to that anymore. And I was like pushing it out to my mates and I was like, please give me some feedback. Like, be a fucking asshole. Don't be a yes man and tell me, you know, everything's good and you're kicking goals and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I want to know what I need to fix, what I need to improve. And, you know, the feedback's been really awesome, man. So many people are like, well, one, you swear way too much, but, but two, like your microphone technique is so much better and your ability to communicate and, you know, just your, presentation in general is so much better. So, you know, we live and we learn, bro.
Oh, mate, totally. But yeah, totally, mate. Complete acknowledgements for getting it off the floor. You're absolutely flying. I saw the list of guests that you've got on as well. So it seems like you're gathering that momentum now where you start to pull in the big guns, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway,
you're on the list, mate. You are on that list, mate.
I appreciate it. But yeah, anyway, back to the story. So pretty much something a lot of people don't actually know about me is that I nearly went to the Olympics as a gymnast. So from the ages of 3 till, it's a really fun story, actually. I feel like I need to share it on the show. So I used to be obsessed with Superman when I was like 3. And one silly mistake from my family led to them buying me a Superman outfit as a young, fearless, energetic kid. And I ended up watching the Superman movie. So I thought I can put my Superman outfit on and run and jump down the stairs and I will fly. Guess what? Gravity completely won. I didn't fly and I broke my arms. So basically, once I healed from that, my family decided, like, look, we've got a bit of a nutcase of a child, maybe a bit of ADHD or whatever, but clearly has no sense of death or anything. So they put me into a gymnastics course. I literally saw someone do a backflip and just did it into the foam immediately. And then they were like, holy shit. How
old were you then?
I was about 3, 4. Like literally, mate, I just didn't even think,
Sick.
Just jump back. And like I might have landed on my hands. And then they saw me like, no one has ever done that. So immediately the coach was like, we need this kid. So from the age of 4 till 13, 14, I basically just trained every single day as a gymnast. There's a pro and a con in that. Obviously, you miss quite a lot of your childhood. You're on nutritional regimes. You lose a lot of your childhood through training. Your entire social circle, XYZ, is revolving around the sport. About the age of like 12, 13, 14, I was getting to a high level, but I'd completely fallen out of love with the sport. I was done. I resented showing up. And I just kept going because my family believed in me so much. They sacrificed so much for me to be there. I found it really, really hard to leave. And it was a decision for about 2 years. I did the whole Conor McGregor. I left, came back. And they just got fed up of leaving parties for me. But eventually I did leave, and I found myself very stuck. So leaving elite sport at such an age, I really struggled because I didn't really know what else there was in the world. I'd trained for a clear goal for so much of my life, and then that had gone. I had nothing to work towards. So from about the ages of 14, 15, 16, going through academia, which I wasn't great at, I'm not good at learning in that fashion. I was quite a rebellious kid as well. I was
going to say, you clearly learn by doing. You're a kinesthetic learner. You fucking grew up doing gymnastics, man. Sitting in a classroom with someone writing on a chalkboard or a whiteboard or whatever. Like, yeah. I don't want to age you, bro, but
exactly. But then the other issue is as well, because I'd followed so much structure all my life. When I came away from it, I just couldn't like. Cobes, I love you so much, and honestly, it inspires the living shit out of me. And I wish I could have that piece, what you have got, which is that discipline, the ability to sit in a fucking chair and not move, like just focus on one thing. And unfortunately, because that was my life for so long, and I'd resented it, I just went the complete opposite way. So I ended up really rebellious. So at school, the entrepreneurial spark in me came out. I was selling sweets at school. I was making so much money selling sweets. I had lockers full of sweets, selling trainers from China, or selling CDs, skim DVDs, like cigarettes imported from Turkey.
Yeah, I was going to say buying a packet of cigarettes for. Oh, dude, I've got mates. I mean, I left home at 14, but I had mates that were like rolling into school and buying a packet of cigarettes and just like selling them for $1 each and making bank, bro. They didn't smoke themselves, but they were just hustling.
The best thing is you used to take your money, go and buy more from the tuck shop and sell it on again. So it's just like this. Anyway, so basically in school, that's when I realized I had a bit of a knack for doing that sort of stuff, but I didn't really understand what I was doing. I got in quite a bit of trouble. as you can imagine it. From that, anyway, I had the whole little car wash. So I had all my friends on the estate. There's about 14 of us. I'd go and get the sale, knock on the door. It's like, hey, we want to wash your car. I'd close the deal and get my friends to go in and wash the car. And so anyway, that was another little thing. But anyway, that was that from that age. I realized I kind of had that little knack. So anyway, coming out of school, going to college, I kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit, but I ended up going into the fitness industry. Within the fitness industry, I was part of and probably helped build one of the UK's biggest coaching companies. And then from that, I suddenly realized that a huge business lesson was that if something is built on your shoulders, you are the sticking point in that business's growth. So for me, even though we were one of the highest priced coaching companies in the UK, we were charging a lot of people, were traveling from all over England to come and train. I had no time. I was doing nothing for myself. I was just seeing, and I'm a person that likes to help people. So if I've got a waiting list that's full, I'll still try and move people in, not for the money, because in my eyes, this person needs help. But I just completely blew myself up. I hit burnout. I was helping every man and his dog. And at this time, the whole online coaching, I just started to see opportunities online. So very early to the gate, I think we were one of the first companies to actually go online. We then built a global team and we created something called Body Composition Coaching. Again, I was very young at this point. So we ended up with a large online coaching company.
I was going to say, what year was this, mate, and how old were you?
I was 21, 22. But dude,
there's
so many lessons. There's so many lessons. Like that business, getting the amount of income I was getting at that age. And dude, at that point in my life, I was doing everything from photo shoot modeling and XYZ. So I'd become quite not, I still think this is from gymnastics, from coming away from something where I still didn't know who I was. So from the age of 15 all the way through to 21, I think I was just off course, doing everything for everything else, and more to the point, living my life trying to please other people. And
yeah, that's a great point, man. You're getting pulled in multiple directions, and because you didn't understand what your values were, you were allowing that to happen.
Yeah, completely. Just batting from pillar to post, just not listening as well. And although we ended up with the business that was doing really, really well, it blew up, and it just got to a point where effectively I took a very big business slip. That was my first, if you're in business and you've not had a failure, you've not really had a business, that was the first big hit. And I went from being at the top of a sky, penthouse to parking lot moment, complete. It was big. But fortunately, some of the people who we were training, we had a lot of billionaire clients and stuff like that. So I actually went and spoke to them and look, you're 21, this has happened. You've got your eyes, you've got your ears, you've got your nose, you've got all these senses. You can go again. I was like, okay.
Yeah, fail forward, man. There's a lesson in this.
Big time. So after licking my wounds, getting a little bit of pride, gaining my pride back over a couple of years, I suddenly realized I was like, right, I started to pay a lot of attention to myself. And about 22, 23, I was like, I am the problem in a lot of areas of my life right now. I have fucked my health up. Relationships, I'm horrendous. I'm meeting amazing people, but I'm messing them up. I was like, business, that was my fault. That was my fault. That was my ego. That was my XYZ that created that to happen. And I just looked at all these areas of my life and I was like, it was just that moment of complete ownership. I was like, this is all my fault. And then I put a post up on social media the other day and I was like, we really are a product of the questions that we ask ourselves. And that was the first point where I think I really started to ask myself the right questions. And you just touched upon on it beautifully was, who am I? What do I want? Where am I going? What are my values? How do I want to lead my life? And then even though a lot fell from under me, I rebuilt my life from 23, 24, 25 onwards for what I wanted to do. I want to go and travel the world. I want to meet amazing people such as yourself. I want to connect with people who are doing things. I want to be inspired by my environments. I want to wake up every day knowing that I'm creating something that's moving forwards and helping people. Do you know what I mean? And I just locked in.
That's brilliant, man.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I love now that people actually go, shit, you live what you speak about. Because I can remember when I had that coaching business and I didn't. you know? And it
100%, dude. Like something I say all the time to my clients and on the podcast is, don't practice what you preach. Preach what you practice. I think that's super important, man. And dude, like that takes incredible awareness for, a 22, 23, 24-year-old kid to go, you know what? I'm going to fucking take ownership. I need to be accountable for the position that I'm in right now. The decisions that I've made in the past have led me to where I'm at right now, and I need to fucking front up, and I can't point the finger at other people, and I need to own up to that and, put my balls on the line and say, what do I need to do to get myself out of this position and keep myself moving forward in the direction that is going to be serving me rather than sabotaging me. Let's talk about that for a moment. Like, how did your life change when you did take that ownership and put that accountability back on yourself?
It sounds so spiritual and woo-woo, but it changed overnight. It literally did. And this is a really weird correlation that I see and has happened multiple times in my life. When you really choose, I genuinely believe that when you choose change at a level that's deeper than superficial, things start to show up very quick. Mate, this is how I ended up in Thailand. I met you, I think it was the first time. I was a young pup at the time. I don't know if you can remember, but I met you on one of my first trips out there. Mm-hmm. And literally the next day, I was like, I want to go and travel the world. Immediately, something popped up, which was a business event in Thailand to Phuket. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go with that. And it was quite a weird thing. Things just started showing up very, very quick. And the more that I started to really narrow in on things, the more of the right things started to show up, if that makes sense. And my stories are very simple, and it's just like really listen to yourself, like what's actually coming through. And all I did was I just became a master of being able to get still enough, even if it was just for 10 minutes in the morning, to really listen. Am I spending my time on the right things? Am I around the right people? Is what I am lined up to do today actually going to move me forwards, or am I wasting time? And I just started to run through this set sequence of questions for me. Do you know what I mean? And effectively, one of the biggest things that I've done and I speak about and I teach a lot now is like really setting your day up to help you with that. Because like now, obviously I kind of cut that story when I was 22, 23. Now with the amount of businesses and investments that we've got, I need to make sure I'm 100% to show up for team, relationship, business partners, like the full board needs me at my best. And I am doing a disservice to everyone, not just the people who we serve in, but everyone if that's not this. And I think we live in a world where like people feel guilty for really just taking control of their own lives. Taking control, but really like creating boundaries around rest, looking after their own health, setting time out to get mentally clear, setting time out, do you know what I mean, to kind of like plan goals. I heard a crazy statistic the other day at a speaking event, which was 97% of people who come up with goals don't achieve them. And I was like, right, that's 3% of people who actually write down goals actually achieve them. Like, what actually is that? And it was, the simple thing was, everyone has goals, but the biggest factor in that was only the 3% write them down and make it real. They write it down to a point where they can plan it, and they can they can ask the right questions. And it's kind of taking those things and giving yourself a dashboard where you can kind of see, am I moving forwards? Am I not? And the questions get stronger, the answers give you the data, and everything just lines up. And that's pretty much it, really. That was kind of the whole story, really, is just really kind of finding the target, lining everything up, making sure that I was the best that I could be to hit that target. Do you know what I mean? And then just continual action. And a couple of other big things in that little story for me was I had to overcome quite a lot, such as like fear of judgment. Like I'd stopped doing things because I was always scared of what other people would say, you know, and I'm a strong believer that a lot of us are great at goal setting. Maybe we don't achieve them or we don't write them down, but a lot of us are very good at finding the picture of the future. But something that I find a lot of people don't do is fear set. Like, actually be honest with yourself and go, do you know what? Like, I want this, but what's actually going to get in the way? Like, what am I actually scared of? Because those are the things that will get in the way of you achieving that. So
that's a brilliant point, man. That's very well put, mate. Like, that whole passage was amazing, and I've just written down a heap of things that I want to go back and touch on. So it's going to take a little bit of time to unpack all this, bro. But that was awesome, man. But something you just said then, the fear set, I don't think I've ever heard that before. That's awesome, man. And you know, I can relate this to my time in Afghanistan, right? Like, I was in a 4-man sniper team, and going out on patrol, I fucking knew that there were certain points that if we passed there, we were always going to get in the shit. We were always going to end up in a firefight. We knew that that's where the bad dudes were. That's where the Taliban were. And as soon as we passed that fucking line in the sand, man, it was like, right, it's game on. And, you know, we get our orders the day before, and it's like, this is where we're going. We're like, all right, we know we need to go through our battle prep. We know we need to prepare ourselves mentally. And, you know, it's all well and good to look at the positives and be like, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, all right, well, we need to risk mitigate as well. These are the things that are likely going to come up. These are, you know, the risks that we're going to be facing. Like, how can we mitigate them as much as possible? And it's about looking those risks in the eye and then going, right, we need to come up with a plan for if that does happen. Worst case fucking scenario, we need to be able to deal with it on the ground. You know, I think that's a great point, man. And again, dude, do you want to add anything to that before I wind us back, get us back on a couple of those points?
No, actually, kind of, yeah, because you're in a country with an amazing story of this. 100%, you're correct about the whole, like, once you're aware of what you're scared of or what you're held back for, you can then start to do the things that are going to move you forwards. And I used to suffer really bad with anxiety. And when I was ill prepared for the fear to trigger, my anxiety would go through the roof to the point where it was debilitating. And I think what you guys say is that you either move forwards or you retreat. You don't stay still. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, 100%,
and
bro.
And I always found when I was ill prepared for fear, I would be anxious and stay still. So that was kind of one of the key things. But there's a really amazing story, and it originates from Thailand. And it's really, really, like, quite a powerful thing on this. And it's on about, I'll basically tell you the story as it is. So a young traveller was travelling into Thailand. And obviously in Thailand, when you're driving down the road, you see the little elephants, unfortunately, have the chain to the leg, and it's tied up, isn't it? Now, this traveller saw the elephant, and he said to the zookeeper, and he's like, excuse me, mate, you've got an elephant here, which is a fully grown elephant. A fully grown elephant. But yet it's tied to something that it can easily break free from, which is a log in the sand or like a little peg. It's like, how come the elephant doesn't run off? How does it not realize its own strength and just make a move? And basically the zookeeper says to the traveler, he's like, from a young age, when it's a baby, we chain the elephant to the peg, and it runs and it's not big enough to pull it. And it keeps doing it. Over a year or two, it just can't break free. So eventually it stops. And as obviously the elephant gets bigger and it gets to a full size, it just doesn't try. It doesn't make that thing. It doesn't make the move to try and push.
It remembers that it put in the effort and it wasn't achieving the result. So it creates this psychological cage.
Bingo. Limiting beliefs. And that was the same thing. Like, what I was trying to say in that story about fear is the things that were holding me back were always belief orientated. Like, I was that little elephant, the little boy who kept running up, and those old things that hadn't quite worked out. Fear of failure, bang, it pulled me back and it stopped me doing the thing that I needed to do. You know? And eventually, once I started to realize this, I kind of pinned to something else. It was like, right, I'm scared of these things. These are the things that are in the way. These are my fears. These are my beliefs. But a lot of people have like a to-do list, don't they? You know what I mean? And you start to notice, like, I need to do this. And you start to notice, like, there's certain things that keep showing up on the to-do list. Like, I need to do a piece of content. I need to make that connection to that celebrity, which I've been saying for the past 3 years. I need to do this. And it's your to-do list, or the things that are still staying on your to-do list, are actually the things that where your fear's showing up in day-to-day life, you know, and they're usually things that can stop you moving forwards as well. So yeah, or your I should list is your scared of list. I should do this. No, you're scared of doing that. So yeah, fear setting's a big topic, man.
Yeah, dude, that's a great point, man. There's so many things that we need to unpack. before we kind of move on, I want to, before we get too far away from it, I want to go back to what you said about when your mindset literally changed overnight when you took accountability and responsibility for where you're at and set a trajectory for the path that you want to move on. Your mindset changed overnight. Now, I say this all the time, like if you're looking for shit in your life, you're going to find shit in your life. If someone says, don't think about the yellow car, you're going to think about the yellow car, so as soon as you take that ownership and accountability and you say, all right, well, I need to start doing things for myself, and you might not necessarily understand exactly what your values are right there and then, but when you take that responsibility and you go, all right, I need to change my circumstances, that means I need to change how I'm conducting myself every single day. When you do that, man, those things start showing up for you. And the thing is, like, they were probably happening in your life before. You just weren't aware of them, or you weren't keeping an eye out for them. But as soon as you do change your mindset, those things, now all of a sudden they become part of the picture, and you start seeing them, and then you follow that path for a little bit, and then that path gets a little bit clearer and you gain more clarity. And, it's a pretty cool progression. Talk to me about that progression for you. Once you did take that accountability, responsibility, and then set that trajectory for your life, like what happened then?
First thing I always say to people, like, don't wait till it's too late. If you're not listening to the signals, like if you're not happy doing something, if you are getting signs every single day that something is right or that something is wrong. At that point in my life, 90% of the signals were wrong, but I kept going. I got punched in the face. If you are not listening to the universal signs that something is not correct, you will be slammed. That could be a relationship fall down. That could be a health problem. That could be business bankruptcy. That could be addiction. It could be coming home one night and your kids say to you, "We don't like you anymore. You're never here." There's the universe will slap you in a way to wake you up. For me, I wasn't listening, and it literally took me to get punched in the face and floored before I went, get it, listening. Okay, I have nothing. I've got no more excuses. I can't go and mingle and do all this. I've got nothing now. So it's like, okay, I've actually got to listen. It's like, right,
I haven't been paying attention for the last, I haven't been paying attention for the last couple of years, but now I'm going to you've made me pay attention.
Exactly. And you just summed it up really well. It's that what you focus on, you get, At one point in my life, I was focused on everything from riches, Ferraris, and all that sort of stuff, which is cool. But you can have those and not be happy. And then I changed it. I was like, do you know what? I actually just want love in my life. I want to wake up feeling inspired. I want X, Y, Z. And the thing that I noticed from this is people set goals, okay? Goals are feelings. Goals are emotionally driven. What is the emotion you're actually after that's behind that goal? And a lot of people you might want to look good, but why? It's confidence, like what is or love, or like what is the actual emotion you're chasing? You're chasing a goal, correct, but the emotion behind that is the deeper reason that goal is important to you. And that's what you need to focus on. For me, I was focused on the looking good, the glam, the girls, and all that sort of stuff. But I was focused on the wrong things. And when I flipped that focus to, I want to wake up inspired. I want to feel like connected to social circles. Like I was in social circles where I wasn't connected to them. I was just showing up for people. I want to like feel love. I want a partner. And those are the certain things. It's really like hone in. And then after you're kind of aware of the emotions that you move in, it doesn't have to be attached onto a massive goal. You can immediately create those little feelings through little actions every single day. I don't feel connected to other people. I'm not connected to myself. Okay, maybe let's start there. And it's just those sorts of things.
Dude, that's a great point. And one of the notes that I wrote down earlier was selfish versus selfless. And myself and my ex-girlfriend used to run these health retreats down in Tasmania before I came to Thailand. And, for the most part, like most of the people on those retreats were women, and they were like stay-at-home mums. And I would ask them, like my ex was, she was the kind, caring person. And I was the dude that was coming in just like straight talking.
Yeah.
And I was like, who's the most important person in your life? And they're all like, oh, my kids, my husband. I'm like, wrong. You are. Because If you're not at your best, how can you be at your best for other people? And, you know, this is the difference between being selfish and selfless. Because if you want to be at your best for other people and you want to be selfless and serve others, then you first need to be at your best yourself. And that means that you need to get up a little bit earlier than, you know, you need to, before you get the kids' lunches ready or make their breakfast or whatever. Get up, like, how much time are you dedicating to yourself? Get up 20 minutes early and do some meditation, do some yoga, have a coffee, like, you know, watch the sunrise or get a little bit of movement in, or, you know, whatever it is, something that is going to set you up for your own day, put you on the front foot so that you can be selfless towards other people. But you first need to be selfish with yourself.
Bingo. It is totally true. I mean, you see it in the business world, left, right, and center. I love how in different sectors of life it shows up differently. That's another huge correlation. Like in business, it shows up in health or relationships, you know? It always comes around in different things. Like if you're not looking after the key person, it will show up somewhere. It will show up somewhere. Like you cannot connect to your partner if you are like ill connected to yourself and you're not happy. You're not going to make anyone else happy if you're not happy, period. You know?
Yeah,
and,
man.
Yeah, you kind of lie to yourself as well. Like there's points you don't feel great when someone's like, "Oh, how are you?" and you're like, "Yeah, I'm great," but deep down you're like, "No, I feel like shit." You know, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is just, yeah.
Yeah, dude,
Be okay
you
with
spoke
being
about like
selfless.
having Ferraris and girls and like the high flying life and all that sort of stuff, and you know that's material possessions, and a lot of people, they aren't at a consciousness level that is serving them, and having a look at their underlying values and creating these actions and behaviors that are going to align with them. So when people aren't doing that, they live an externally validated life through material possessions. Well, I'm going to buy this for, you know, this reason because I want to have the brand shoes or the brand car or whatever it might be. You know, like that's hedonistic adaptation. Is you buy that thing and you feel good for a couple of days and then that feeling's gone again. And then you buy the next thing and then you adapt to that and then that feeling's gone again. You need to continue buying things. And this is, you know, the consumer driven world that we live in. Now, if you flip the script like you did and you look at where you're at and what's put you in that position, take ownership of all your actions, decisions, and create some value in your life, then it makes it so much easier to then go, all right, this is what I need to be selfless. And that means that I need to look after myself so I can be at my best for myself, so then I can be at my best for other people. And, you know, that's fulfillment. And you said emotions before. Emotions drive decisions. And for me, man, like fulfillment and achievement is that fucking thing that makes me feel on top of the world. You know, you said earlier, like I'm disciplined and I've always got my shit squared away and I'm always working on personal growth and study and, you know, bettering myself. And that's because I feel fulfilled doing that stuff. I'm achieving things every single day. I'm ticking boxes. I'm achieving little wins every single day, man. And, you know, when I wake up with purpose and I have achievement, I'm ticking those boxes every single day. Guess what? I feel fucking great about myself. You know, I don't need external validation from other people. I don't need external validation from things. You know, I'm constantly validating myself by living in line with my values and fucking being the person that I want to be every single day.
Bingo. There's a really good lesson in that as well. It's like a lot of people want something for confidence. If I have that bag or those new shoes, or if I achieve that body, I will get confident. It's not. Your confidence and your self-esteem raises in the journey and the daily actions. You don't just fucking get, you know, confidence will come, yes, when you're there, but it's actually sculpted in your daily actions. Your growth is your actions, period. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to what you said earlier, like that's where growth is. It's in that fear. You know, if you constantly stay in your comfort zone, you're never going to grow. Like we need a little bit of stress, just a little bit of stress. We need to, you know, condition ourselves to a little bit of stress so that we shift the needle and we can move a little bit further forward, and that what was uncomfortable before is no longer uncomfortable. And then we continue doing that. And, you know, how do you build self-confidence and self-esteem? Is you fucking show up and you do the things that you said you're going to do. So you don't need to set these big audacious goals where, I'm going to lose 10 kilos in the next 3 months. Like, go, right, I'm going to lose 1 kilo in the next month. What does that mean? That means I need to track my calories every day. That means I need to manage my energy balance. That means I need to eat clean the majority of the time. It means I need to, sleep enough, blah, blah, blah. Like, those things are what you're doing every single day is what's leading you to achieving that goal. And like I said, it shouldn't be a massive goal. It should be something where you're ticking those boxes every single day, because that achievement then breeds self-confidence. And what was uncomfortable before is no longer uncomfortable. And then you reset those goalposts, and then you go again, and you keep doing that over and over and over again. And it's about setting your day up for wins.
Big time. Really, really is. I mean, I'm at a position now where it's the beginning of my day is self-focused. So from 5 till 10 a.m., it's me learning, set my day up, spend time just on my own, training, yoga, mobility, all that sort of stuff. After the day, it's team. I then focus on my team because my team move everything else forwards. And then after that, it's people. Like, I'll then open myself up to the world. And that's now my boundaries. Morning is me. Who's going to move the needle for the next? Team. Who's after that? People, service, podcasts, XYZ. And that's how I set it up. But going back to that as well is like when people...
Can we just pause there for a second?
Yeah, for sure.
Just for people listening, the first, 4 hours, 5 hours? Self.
Oh, yeah.
Then the team, then others. And like we just said, if you want to serve others... You want to be your best for other people. You need to be your best for yourself, and then your team is going to look after others.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way. And look, I'm speaking on here, and the thing, like, there are some days where it doesn't happen, but I fucking know. I know, like, I am my best when I show up like that, and like, what works for me might not work for somebody else. And I really think the beautiful thing about coaching and like what you guys do is you've got to give people the toolkit to go and work out what works for them, and obviously some people have different circumstances as well. But for me, if I don't follow that structure, it really shows. Like, I noticed I'm ill clarity, I'm ill focused. You can make it like, if I don't go to the gym in the morning and I open up my emails and I'm suddenly stressed at something, I now have an excuse not to go to the gym later. Like, I remove all my excuse. I have no excuse when I've not opened myself up to the world. I'm in my own bubble, me, 9, 10 o'clock. Okay, triggers pulled, bang, let's go. And it's just making sure that I'm in the right space. And the reason that I kind of came to this is like, you can be the happiest person in the world. Like, you can have anything in the world. You can have everything. You can have achieved all the successes. But if you're sat on a beach with everything that you ever dreamed of in your life, and then suddenly you've got an ache and a pain and your energy's gone, and you know what I mean? Your quality of life drops. And I think this is why it's so important that you service your health before anything. Like, you and your health have to come first, because if you've not got your health, you've not got your energy, your confidence is going to go, your self-esteem is going to go. It's going to ripple into every other area of life. And I really think if you can create boundaries around health, self-esteem, confidence, time, and energy, your major assets in life, everything else will grow and thrive around you. And the biggest shift that I see, and I said this at the beginning, is like, a lot of people feel really guilty about putting themselves first. A lot of people feel really guilty about having boundaries. And the perception of it's really wrong. It's like, if I do this, people are going to hate me. And it's like, maybe the wrong people. And this is the other thing, like, you're being selfish. Okay, so you want me to stop doing the thing that's better in me so that I can do something for you. Who's the selfish one? Like, let's really think of that paradox. So I think once you really like change that, you start to attract better. When you're being better, when you're doing better, when you're growing, things around you grow, things around you thrive. And that's really the big thing on that. And before we paused, another great little exercise, and I spoke about this when we did the speaking gig on the 10-day event, is the thing that really, really helped me the most was, I call it the core 4 areas of life. And so I have a yearly one, I have a monthly one, I have a weekly one, and I do it daily. So this is how I break things down. Health, mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, Box number 1. Box number 2, love, relationships, social circles, family, kids, dogs. Area number 3, business, money, personal growth, education. Area number 4, adventure, life, travel. And the way I set things up is those are really like the core 4 things. Number 1, if I'm not healthy, none of the other 4 can happen. I have to make this my priority goal. So goal for the year, then goals for the month, maybe the week, and then what do I need to do? Like, what are my daily actions to make sure that this happens? And then the same in the others. Like, if you're not, like, again, going down to love. If you're not, like, if you're suddenly feeling a little bit like isolated, and yes, we are in lockdown and XYZ, just pick up the phone and send a WhatsApp to 3 messages and start a conversation with someone who you've not spoken to for a while. And you'll notice and that'll help you in the future. like it's just mental. And the thing that I love about the beautiful thing about this topic of conversation is it threads into every single area of life. And when you really start to understand that every single action is a transaction with your future self. Everything you do, every transaction in time, every action, you are transacting with who you're going to be in the future. That text message you just sent to that person, yes, you'll feel better because you'll be in a sense of communication and connection with them, but they might remember you next time an opportunity opens up and send it back your way. Like, little things just start to ripple and echo, and you notice this in fat loss and body composition in like your industry, if we put it down into that, is like, the transaction with yourself is an echo. It might not happen straight away, such as if you eat the salad, you're not going to lose the weight tomorrow or in a month or XYZ, but it will echo through into the future. Like, and what you do today might not show up immediately. If you understand that the bigger echo will bounce back further down the line, you know what I mean? And you start leading things through that way. You start doing things for the right reasons.
Yeah, I love that, bro. One of my favorite quotes is, "Don't judge a day by the harvest that you reap, but by the seeds that you plant."
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And dude, this is what I'm doing with the podcast, man. Like it, I bought a new laptop. I bought, all the equipment, software, intro music and all that sort of stuff. Like, and, subscriptions for, the different types of software, and spent I've got like 80 episodes or something. Some episodes took me like 5 hours to put together when I was researching and recording and editing and uploading and blah, 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 blah. So, it's been a massive investment for me, and I have not made a single cent from anything I'm doing on the podcast. But, it was never about making money. Of course, at some stage, I'm going to monetize it, but, I'm planting the seeds now. I'm creating myself as an authority in the space. People, someone that people can listen to and go, well, I trust what this dude has to say. He's put out fucking, 80 episodes. He's got these amazing guests on that are all pretty much saying the same thing. Like, when's this dude going to put out some programs, some online coaching, some nutrition ebooks and things like that? And I'm building towards that, but again, it's planting seeds, and, there's not always, like you said, there's not always going to be an immediate return. We need to move away from this instant gratification, and we need to start doing things for ourselves to, like you said, invest in our future.
Yeah, exactly that. And like, the other thing is as well with the podcast is like, you've done the podcast, but the other thing is you've just created 88 interviews with different people. Like, you have now connected with those people. You've grown your connection list. You've grown your your touch points. Like, they'll be able to connect you with other people to help you. And that sort of process just in itself will grow you even further. It's always throws itself back tenfold.
That's a great point, dude. Great point, man. So many people, I've got a couple of mates that are like, why the fuck are you investing so much time, energy, effort, money into the podcast, and if you're not getting any return on it right now? And I'm like, you know what? Like, I get to talk to some amazing people, and I get to educate my listeners, my audience on, certain topics. People ask me questions, and I'm like, I know the answer to that, but I'm going to go and double check my information. I'm going to present it in a manner that, is understandable to an 8-year-old. So I'm getting to learn this stuff again, and I'm getting to reinforce these ideas, and, I'm getting to talk to amazing people like yourself that, are achieving big things in their own industries and in their own careers and things like that. And man, like, I'm doing this as much for myself as I am for other people. I love it, man.
Exactly.
It's part of this is part of my personal and professional growth, bro.
Big time.
You can't cheat you can't cheat a long form conversation, right?
Totally. But then the other same thing is as well, like, you're actually helping people. Like, you know, you might never get the money, but you might have just stopped that guy blowing his brains out. Like, your conversation might genuinely help someone who's in a bad place change their life. You know,
Mate,
and this is the fun thing about social media as well. Like, you don't realize who's watching or who's listening. Like, yes, you get likes and validatory things, but when the DM hits from the person who's never made themselves notice, like, hey, I watched this a few days ago. It really helped. I've been going through some troubles, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, that's what fucking matters. Not the likes, not this. Like, you're doing something that's growing you, yeah, but you're genuinely helping people. And selfless service will give you more growth than immediate gratification, period.
Man, you make a really good point there. And, you know, I've received numerous messages over the last probably like 9 months or so that I've had the podcast going. You know, I had some messages before I started the podcast, but they've ramped up a little bit since I've started the podcast, where I've, you know, never heard from these people. I don't know who they are. They just send me a message and like, thank you so much. You know, your podcast has helped me, and the content that you put out really resonates. And, you know, I love the angle that you take, and I love how real you are, and blah, blah, blah. And like, I've literally had people say, you know, I probably wouldn't be here if I hadn't have found your content, man. And dude, like, some of these messages, it fucking brings a tear to my eye, mate. And I get super emotional. I'm like, I don't know how to respond to that. And I'm like, man, I'm really fucking glad that you reached out to me. I'm really glad that you're still here to send me this message, and it means so much to me. And like, you know, I'm not doing it for those people to get those messages of gratification. But man, when you get those types of messages, you're just like, you're vindicated, right? It's like, fuck, man, like, if I get one of those messages a year, it's worth it.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And it's maybe like, you can have £100 for the one episode, or you've genuinely just helped someone change their life who's now going to go and tell another 100 people about you and how it was you. Here's something. In school, there was one teacher whose name you remember, who helped you when you were young. Everyone's got an emotional attachment to a teacher. But who the fuck are the rest of the other teachers? You remember the person who really helped you, who genuinely selflessly served you when they didn't need to. The one that went over the odds. That person, you will take that person's name to your grave. But I don't remember any of the other teachers.
Yeah, great point, dude. I want to go back to the 4 areas of your life that you spoke about before. Can you just go through them again? It was health, love, business, and adventure. Is that right?
Yep. So there's 4 key areas, and if you just break it down into the simple word, it's health, all areas, love and connection, business and growth, and like life goals, like what do you want to do? And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, like in order.
Yeah. Cool. I just want to use that as an example for people listening of how, you know, you're going to need to prioritize some of those more than others at certain times of your life. Like, you know, you might need, and this is what I used to do when I was in Australia, man. I'd work for 8 or 9 months every year, and then I'd go traveling for 2, 3, 4 months every year. And I'd come to Thailand, I'd train for a month, you know, I'd build my website or write online, my online coaching program, or ebooks, or whatever it might be. But that was, you know, when I was in Australia, it was all about business. I was kind of business and relationship. And then when I was traveling, it was all about the adventure, right? So I was prioritizing those different elements at different times of my life. And, you know, that ability to focus on 1 or 2 things at a time and really prioritize that. Of course, other areas are going to take a little bit of a hit and they might slip a little bit, but you need to, you know, there's still going to be things that you're going to do that's kind of going to minimize the damage and be able to maintain those things whilst you focus on these other things. But then, you know, understanding that when you do have the time to focus on the other things like the adventure and the love and connection, whatever, then, you know, the other things, the career and the business and things like that might take a little bit of a hit as well. So I think it's important for people to understand that you can't fucking keep all of those balls. If you're juggling all of those balls at once, you can't keep them all up at the same time. You know, something has to give. So if you're prioritizing one thing, then you need to understand and you need to be aware and ready to let some of those other things slip. But you also need to understand what your non-negotiables are for each one of those areas.
Big time. I always think that it always goes in phases. Like even when if you look down to health and like if you go, so say for example you've got health, strength, body composition, XYZ, like as soon as you move the needle, so if you're going to go 100% into body composition, don't be surprised if your health starts like a huge deficit, blah blah blah. Health and energy are going to take a hit. So like whatever you're biased to at that moment, make yourself aware of what plates might start to wobble. Like I've got a big month in business, but I need to make sure I'm doing the small impactful things to my family to keep that plate up, you know, and just kind of like find the phase and work out the non-negotiables in those areas. And the other thing is as well on that is communicate it. Like you'll be amazed at how just simply, like even in a fat loss goal, like communicate. Like a lot of people struggle because they don't communicate to the partner, they don't communicate to the loved ones of the team. It's like, hey guys, just letting you know, I kind of feel like this at the minute. I need to make this change in my life. These are the benefits. However, I am maybe every Wednesday and Tuesday, I'm going to be going to this class and it might just take a little bit of time away. But what it will give in return is I'll have much more energy to spend with you through the day. I'll be able to stay up later with you in the evenings, you know what I mean? And actually have the real conversation of your goals, the pros and the cons, and talk it through with people. And I really think like a lot of people struggle because they just don't express or communicate like what it is that they're doing. They'll just go and do it. And suddenly everyone's like, well, she's changed. he's different now. It's like, no, just tell them.
Yeah. Dude, I'm not sure if you've ever experienced this, but I've actually, in my coaching career, I don't know how I feel about this because, you know, I've helped change someone's life numerous times, but there's been times where the person that I'm coaching, once they've been with me for a year or something like that, and we've made these incremental changes day after day, week after week, month after month, they're a completely different person. And then what happens is their relationship breaks down. They end up becoming, you know, getting divorced because they've grown as a person and their partner is still the same fucking person that they were. And then this resentment creeps in and, you know, people just outgrow other people. And I mean, like I said, I don't know how I feel about that. Have you experienced anything like that?
It's true. I've had it with myself. I've been through that myself, and I've seen that a lot. I've seen it from my friends, business partners, and stuff like that. And I was just like communication again. Going back to that point, if you could have communicated those things, and like you can make a relationship stronger by communicating it. I'd love you to come involved. Maybe we should do this together. Maybe every week, and you can like communication provides the problems and it provides the solution. And if we don't communicate, we can't find that ground. You've not communicated to your partner that you're on this transformation, change and growth. And now he's watching you change, or she's watching you change, and doesn't feel involved, or like, do you know what I mean? And it could just take...
Or doesn't want to be involved.
Let's communicate this. Yeah. And I think communication will get, communication will give you the correct data. Is this for me? Is this against me? And that's when you can go make the rational decisions instead of waiting for ages. Like the person will, if they are with you, they will help you. They will maybe there won't be any resistance. You just know, do you know what I mean? There's that like purple elephant in the room. I know when I was in this position in a relationship and I wasn't communicating it, it was my fault. I wasn't communicating it. I was doing all of these things trying to grow and move away, and I could have made it inclusive and I didn't. I didn't realize I wasn't really communicating it, and I kind of didn't really include the person in what I was trying to do. And I now, with the head I've got on my shoulders and going through things, I genuinely think that could have been a completely different. It could have led that could have helped that situation, you know. But I wasn't the person who could have done that or communicated at that point. So yeah. I think that's one of the big things. If you are embarking on something new, just explain to people.
Yeah. And I mean, to add to that, some people are going to go on that journey with you and they're going to grow alongside you. But if they don't want to go on that journey and they want to stay exactly where they are and they don't want to make any changes, then you're going to grow. And unfortunately, you're probably going to grow apart. But that's going to happen, man. Like, you are literally a product of your environment, but you create your environment. So, you know, if you've got people, you know, have you heard the analogy of the crabs?
Oh, yeah, in the bucket.
Yeah. Tell my listeners that. They probably heard it from me, so you explain it.
Oh, yeah. The crabs in the bucket it actually works as well. But if you I can remember this when I was a kid in my little wellies going crabbing with my dad. But if you put crabs in a bucket, basically when one tries to escape, the other crabs will reach up and pull it back down into the bucket. And it's the same thing if you're around that sort of environment. Fuck, and it's the worst thing is about humans is we're so smart and manipulative that we can be really fucking passive in it. Like, for example, I'm so weird. Like when I go for dinners and stuff, I just hear sly dig comments and like ordering a salad. It's like, oh, you're on that health train again. You know what I mean? It's like, just look, like people really communicate the bullshit that's going on with themselves in laughter and jest. The truth speaks in jest, in my eyes. And something that can be masked as a joke is actually something that's trying to pull you down. It's like, oh, you're doing that health, oh, you're doing that vegan thing or whatever. You know what I mean? But it really is that crabs in a bucket. Just watch people.
Excuse me. Your projection to the world is a reflection of your inner environment.
Yeah,
mate. This has been a fucking man. This has been an incredible conversation, mate. There's. I mean, I sent you a list of questions that we haven't even touched on yet.
Do you want to go back to them?
Man, this is. I mean, kind of tying into your areas, your 4 key areas of life. I am an ambassador for Swiss 8, which is a proactive mental health program. And, you know, this kind of ties into everything that we've been talking about, because if you are proactive about the life that you want to lead and the person you want to become, then, you know, you're going to be setting yourself up every single day rather than being reactive. So you were saying earlier, the first 5 hours of the day, you're working on yourself. You're being proactive rather than being reactive and answering emails and messages and all that type of stuff. Now, the Swiss 8 app is on all platforms, and it encompasses 8 pillars of health and wellness to allow people to schedule in and structure their 8 pillars, which are sleep, nutrition, discipline, time management, fitness, personal growth, mindfulness, and minimalism. Now, which one of those pillars is most important for you right now, and have they changed over time?
For me, I'm in growth phase at the minute. I took a break last year. I called it my crouching tiger year. I needed a reassessment of things last year, so I took the year. This is when I was in Thailand. That was the start of it. Took a year off. I was like, for once in my life, I'm not going to have a goal. I struggled. So I'm not going to work towards. My only goal is just to be still, work on myself, learn something new, and kind of like really work out what. You see, with me, Sean, like if I get something in my eyes, I'm very laser targeted, and I wanted to work out what the next phase of my life would be. At the expense of everything else. Well, I'm better at that now. I'm better at that. But used to, I'd burn everything down to the floor, and it's like, oh, this is great, but now I've got these 3 areas which are fucked. Oh, and I'm massively overweight. But yeah, for me at the minute, I'm in growth phase, and last year was all about. I just called it my year of clarity. I'd hit 30. I wanted a few things to change. I think this is something worth speaking about as well. I genuinely think we go through phases of change, and I actually looked at this. I did some research on it. It could be worth. Females every 8 years, men every 10. We go through a phase where suddenly things, apparently, there is literature on it, but we go through like these phases where we actually evolve and grow. And I thought that was crap. And then I hit 29, 28, and I was like, 29, 30, and I was like, okay, I kind of want a bit of change in things. I want to kind of move businesses directions. I want the next year in my life to refocus on different things. So I just was like, stop, right? It's refocus. Let's get clear. Let's work on the health, get into a really good position with energy and whatnot, and before we pull the trigger. And literally now we are pulling the trigger on quite a lot of new brands and things that we're bringing to the market and stuff, which is really exciting. So yeah, that was the longest answer to your question, but growth.
No, dude, that's awesome, mate. Like, I want to talk about, you know, what's happening. You've got your own podcast. You've got a number of businesses that you've got your hand in, you know, that you're building up globally. Can you talk about some of those projects that you're working on? First of all, let's talk about your podcast. Like, you know, you're obviously very well spoken. You're very intelligent. You've had the ability to learn from a lot of your guests and things like that. Talk to my audience about what your podcast is about and some of the guests that you get on, first of all.
So The podcast, currently we're having a bit of an interlude, so we're having a 3-month breaking period, just relining up for the next season. But it is called the Nourish Life Show, and it's similar to yourself, Sean. Our focus is mainly it is on growth. I think me in a nutshell, it's growth and moving forwards, and that's what the show is on about. Work yourself out, work out what you want. I always say the 3 key questions to ask in life are, who am I, what do I want, where am I going? And I think if you can't answer those 3 questions with clarity and certainty, any action taken forwards from that will be a clutch of a straw. There'll be no longevity in that action. So our show is really just on personal awareness, clarity, and we get guests in from different areas. Love, entrepreneurs, investors, people. Success for me isn't the guy who's just got the business and the Ferrari. It's the guy who's done something massive in the world, who's helping someone, who's in great shape, who's full of energy, who's authentic, who's got an amazing relationship, someone who's ticking all the boxes and not just ticking one. And we bring on a lot. Like, that's pretty much what we do. But we are, like I said at the minute, just taking a bit of a break, a bit of an interlude, and then going again in another 4 weeks, I think we are now, till we pull the green trigger on that one.
Awesome, man. What are some of the other businesses that you're working on?
Business-wise at the minute, so there's quite a few things. I run a lot of investments and stuff, so there's quite a few things that we're in. We've just got a global coffee brand going live. For me, I've always been obsessed with coffee, period. And I got annoyed of traveling the world, and then every time I came home, I couldn't get the coffees that I wanted. And I also know a lot about the coffee industry and how we're all actually being sold shit. So we
Stop
actually
going to Starbucks.
We've pulled something together, and I actually went and lived on a coffee farm in Peru. And the way that they make it is they infuse flavors and different notations in. So, for example, we've created these coffee blends which have got smoked orange, apple and stuff like that in. So it's an amazing coffee, really, really high-end coffee, but also with the infusions. That's one thing. We've got an organic and natural energy drink coming live. We've got an alcohol line, and we've got a clothing brand, and then we've got everything within the Nourish Group, which is our platform for personal development and personal growth, which we are looking to put an app in this year, which will also be moving forwards. So
nice,
quite a few things.
Yeah, many things. Now, was there a particular event or circumstance or something like that pushed you on the current trajectory that you're on in life? Or was it just over a number of years of growth, development, and kind of understanding what your values were and creating clarity and things like that?
It's exactly that. It's look, the big thing for me was the fall down. So I didn't mention, my story's big. I'd be on here for about 4 hours. But at the time that everything fell, one of my best friends committed suicide. Literally the day after my life fell to shit, his life sadly ended, which only added to that mess. But yeah, unfortunately that happened. And I could see myself going that way. I really could. I wasn't in a great place after everything that happened. And it was from that day forwards was the day I started to ask the right questions. And this is why I really say to people, you are a product of the questions you are asking yourself. So really start finding out the right questions and asking them. And it, now I just make sure, I'm a master practitioner of reflective practice. Go through your day with focus and planning, but also reflect what worked, what didn't, what needs to change the next day, and just refine, retweak, and tune in. And if something doesn't feel right, stop. You need space. Go and just switch off. You do this. You just switch off and just, I don't know, you go into some crazy locations and just disappear. But you can tell already, it works wonders for you, and that works wonders for me. But really kind of for me, Sean, and I really think this is, again, those 3 questions: who are you, what do you want, where are you going? Know your values. For me, my values in life are fun, inspiration, growth, connection, and creativity. Now, those are my 5 values. If you look at me on most things, they will radiate. And everything I do really just goes off those. I'm not the person, I like growing businesses. I like creating things. I like to inspire other people. And that was it. I just operate my life now true to my values. And the biggest thing I found is through what I do is the moment something doesn't feel right, it's not in line with my values. The moment I don't feel great, I'm not in line with my values. you know, the moment something's going wrong in a relationship or something, it's out of line with my values. It sounds so simple, but it's took me a lot of years of becoming aware of them and then putting boundaries up and really respecting them and making them a priority in my life. And I think that's kind of got me to where I am now, really, is I'm just really focused on that. And now it's hopefully from what everyone else can see, is it's going out there and helping other people maybe do the same. So
yeah, I love that you're able to list off those 5 values, because when you understand what your values are, then it makes every decision in your life so much simpler, man. You say yes to the things that align with your values, and you say no to the things that don't align with your values. Like, yeah, man, that's fucking awesome, dude. What does success mean to you?
So I wouldn't forget.
Oh. Yeah, let's hope you don't forget that. If anyone sees Simon, you ask him his 5 values, you can't name them, you're in trouble, bud. Just look at the arm, mate.
Was that what does success?
Yeah. How do you define success?
It's happiness, really. Just living a life of happiness and helping people, and you know what I mean? Just fun. Like, fuck, we're here to have fun, be happy, and connect with other people. See the world. Obviously now that's not, like, we're here for that, you know, and that's pretty much it, really, mate. Success for me is like making sure that you've lived. Like, I'm scared shitless of getting to the point and not having done the things that I really want to do in life. And you know what I mean? And just also, like, I think this kind of throws itself into the work that we do, is also showing people that they can do that too. You know, you don't have to be in a 9 to 5. You don't have to be stuck. You don't have to, like, people shouldn't be unhappy. And I find it really difficult, and it really kind of like gets to me, is like just a little bit of support in the world would go so far with everyone, just humanity, like someone believing in another person, someone genuinely trying to help someone. It's just like we've become, I don't know, we're just not helping ourselves, you know? And I really think there's a big transformation in the world and people. Yeah. And and I think that's it. I think people are really, I don't want to use the whole word that's going on in the self-development communities all the time, but we are getting a lot more conscious, and people really are now being a lot more selfless. But people are also now really trying to create communities like you're doing. Like, people are really going out the way now to raise the help and the support, because it never used to be there. And like, you really are a product of what you consume. Like, you can look at handbags and Louis Vuittons and all that sort of shit, great, but it's not going to lead you to somewhere. Like, you've now got this consumption of a podcast for personal growth. You've got all these pages on Instagram. You can learn a new skill on YouTube. The world over the past 2-3 years has just created so much support for people, and really it's getting people to the right places. And that's what I love, and that's what I knowledge about what you're doing now with the podcast. Like, you know,
mate,
great tips.
Love it. Let's talk about any outstanding leaders or mentors that you've had in your life. Anyone that's had a significant impact on shaping the man that you are and the person you are today.
So I've always had mentors, always. My dad is the biggest, like, a major one in my life. I'm so grateful for my father. But I've had a lot. Like, when I was first in business, I had a mentor, and one of the biggest things that I learned from him was to find my voice. Like, depression is the lack of expression. So if you're not expressing yourself, there you go. Expressing what you love, chances are you're going to end up being suppressed and depressed. So something that always stuck with me from that first mentor was the word, another brain tattoo, which was to speak even if your voice is shaking, because you will grow through that shake. That was one of the biggest things I learned from him. I was then mentored by a guy called Yassine Dabadai, who is very, very big in the personal development world and the business world. He's a very, very conscious dude. He reads a book a day, like, it's ridiculous. But he kind of got me into the whole minimalistic stoicism, like really working out what you want and like just crushing your own fears. Like, you've got to go to war with your own fears sometimes to get the growth that you need. And the quote which he said, which again is brain tattooed, is, "That of which you seek lies in the cave of which you fear to enter most." It kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, did you post that on social media recently?
Probably.
Yeah, because I think the first time I read that, I was like, that's brilliant, and it's stuck with me since. And then you just brought it up again, so it must have been, I don't know, must have been recently, I assume. Your social media, I love your social media, man. Your Instagram is like, it's spot on, mate. It's like short and sharp quotes and thought provoking. So for people listening at home, it's like, you can use social media, you can use technology for good or for bad. Like you can allow it to serve you, or you can allow it to sabotage you. It's a tool, and any tool can be used for good or bad. And it's not just good or bad. There's a spectrum in between. It's like how you wield that tool. I can build a house for my family using a hammer, or I can fucking smash someone's head in. Like how you use that tool is what's going to determine the outcome. And my point in saying that is that, if you are on social media and you do spend time on Instagram, like follow people that are going to serve and inspire you, not make you feel shit about yourself, or not make you want to buy their fucking, 6-pack abs in 6 weeks or something like that. Like, again, you are a product of your environment, but you shape your environment. So you need to pay attention to what you're consuming and where that information's coming from. Like, who are your sources? What are you getting from them? What are you getting out of that?
Dude, I totally agree. Look, from the world I'm in with what we do, like when you look at social media, you're constantly being conditioned that you're not good enough. Marketing works by either inspiration or manipulation. You're manipulated on your social media channel that you are in pain. The first thing marketers ask for in this world is, what pain is this person in? Yep. So, and
then what can I sell them to fix that pain?
Bingo. So everywhere you look, media, magazines, the news, you're being put into fear, and you're being told you're not good enough, or you're being put into a scarce, fear-based mindset, and you can't grow when you're in that position. So you've really got to fertilize the soil of what's going in through your eyeballs, and firing up your brain.
Yeah, but people need to be aware of that and then choose what they consume. Because if you continue consuming this, this information that's going to make you feel like shit about yourself, then you can't blame the marketers. They're just doing their job. Like, you need to, again, be accountable for your own shit, what you're consuming.
It is crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
Yeah, man. What are some resources that you can recommend for people? Like, we've obviously gone all over the place with this conversation. It's been an incredible conversation from my point of view. You're obviously, well-versed in leading your best life. What are some amazing resources that you can recommend to people? Maybe some podcasts or some courses or some books or audio books or something like that?
I think there's quite a few things, really. Just find first things first, find what you want to learn. That's the big thing, and then kind of find the podcast relative to that sort of stuff. Like, if anything has touched with you today, you're in the right place. You've already started on your journey. If you're listening to this podcast, there's many others out there. Obviously, I'm going to be biased and say my own, because that's kind of down this line.
I'll recommend your podcast as well.
Thank you. With regards to books, before even books, I'd say journaling. Before even picking up more consumption material, just actually work out what's actually going on in your brain, and maybe do a brain dump. Write down everything that's going on in there, get clarity of it, and organize your thoughts before putting more in there. Kind of empty out the trash, the bucket, so you can fill it with more fresh stuff. I think that's something that kind of gets underlooked. Books wise, this is a book, right? It's not religious. It is not religious. I really want to drive that home. The book that changed my life is a book called Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. And it's an incredible piece of literature. And it's about a guy who goes through this journey of realizing that everything is on his shoulders. His life, what he does, the outcomes of his life, and all that sort of stuff. And it was the first, when I was going through that process, that was the book that kind of gave it that message of everything is a product of you, And that was an amazing book. It's not religious in the slightest, even though it uses God. God is the highest version of him, and he's speaking to himself in the book. So it's it's a bit of a weird one to get your head around, but reading it, you're like, oh, this is absolutely perfect.
It's like, that's me. That's my consciousness. or my subconscious.
Big time, mate. There used to be a time when I used to laugh at, like, I used to laugh so much at this stuff, and now I'm bloody preaching about it all the time. But there's that, all the Ryan Holiday stuff. One of the best books I've read this year was How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. So if you're into the Stoicism stuff, How to Think Like a Roman Emperor is amazing. So it's like Marcus Aurelius's meditations, but the stories around it, like why he actually started to use those meditations, all the little quotes to run his life by. Other books, there's loads. There's so many now. And this is the thing, like, before we get onto this, and I put a post out there the other day, like, I've been into this trap many times. I've read all the self-development books. I've heard all of the messages, spoke to me in a different way of speaking it. It's like, knowledge is useless without action. So there's nothing worse than reading a book, like not reading a book all the way through. It's reading the book and doing nothing with the information that you've got. Find one book, learn the lesson, go and act on it before picking up another. And then, do you know what I mean? And I really think that's something when it comes down to this sort of stuff. Don't continually get into the habit of learning and consuming. Get the tires onto the track and start using it. And the biggest form of learning education comes in doing it in the wisdom. Like, because then you know, this works for me. Okay, that didn't work for that person, but it actually worked for me. You start to get the things that you need, like, in the action. So that would be probably what I'd say. And then to, like, look, let's be honest, YouTube. You don't need to pay thousands and thousands for courses anymore, or how to become an entrepreneur. Just go on YouTube. Content's all there for free. Really is.
Yeah, and to add to that, man, like, as you said, you know, you need to find something that you want to learn about, because there's no point saying, I want to learn about nutrition. I'm gonna give myself something to do and go and learn about nutrition. But if you're not actually interested in it, you're not going to pay attention to it, and you're not going to put the time, energy, effort. You're not going to apply those principles into your actually, like, daily life. So, you know, find something that actually interests you, that is going to help better you as a person and better your life overall. Great points, mate.
Dude, I read a book recently called Make It Stick, and it was about the art of making information stick. The first point before you pick up a book was to give the book an intention. I want to learn this from this book. Why am I reading it? What am I priming my brain to look out for?
I love that, bro. I love that intent, mate. Awesome. I speak to, you've been in my classes at Tiger. I speak, you know, at the end of the class, I'll bring everyone in and I'll say, hey guys, at the start of the class, hey guys, the intent for this class is X, Y, Z, and people have an understanding of why they're doing something. And then when they understand why they're doing something, then how they do it makes a lot more sense. I think that's brilliant, man.
Dude, I used to love your classes. For the point, I probably had to lie on the floor for about half an hour after and kind of like have an out of body experience before coming home and being able to walk back and go and die for an hour. But like, that's what I loved about it. It was like you understood it. You understood everything before you did it. And you know what I mean? I think that's a big thing. It's massive. It's a very big educatory thing with what you do.
That's an excellent point, man. It's like, you know, it's not like I understood everything before I did it. It was like, what do I want to achieve? And then that is what builds out the programming. You know, the exercise order, the exercise selection, you know, the intent is going to drive everything else. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier about understanding what your values are. When you know what your values are, that gives you clarity on what your intent is. And then what, you know, everything you do, I say yes to this thing, I say no to these things. What am I achieving with this? What am I getting out of this? What's my return on investment? Yeah, that's awesome, man.
As you say, the other thing on that is with your classes is, I've always noticed this, like when I'm training at the intensity that I've been put through in some of your classes, especially with that 5-minute assault bite thing, is like you get to a point where your body's like, not like, this isn't a normal feeling, do you know what I mean? But because you've armed me with the knowledge that this is going to happen, I can push through that barrier. And I think it kind of throws itself back into that fear conversation, is if you're prepared for something that's not going to feel normal, you'll go through it.
Yeah. You're exactly, man. That's a great point. Is like, you know, your mindset determines your physiological response, your body language, and vice versa. You know, if someone's like getting out of bed, they haven't slept very well, and they're dragging their heels around, like they're probably going to feel like shit that day. They're not going to make good decisions around food and exercise and, looking after themselves and, things like that. So I think the mindset and the body language are so interconnected, man, and it's something that people don't really think too much about. To start
Big
winding
time.
up the episode, mate, I'm just wary of... Yeah, sorry, go on.
It's just on that
wary
note,
of your time, bro.
I've got all the time in the world today, mate. But another takeaway. So when I kind of I went on a bit of a spiritual journey, mate, and I went and I've done the whole live with monks sort of, all that stuff. Like, had to go and work myself out at one point. But something that really kind of stuck to me is when it comes down to psychology is your thoughts impact your emotions. Your emotions have a direct impact on your actions, and your actions directly impact your results and outcome. So your thoughts impact emotions, emotions impact actions, actions create habits, your habits create your outcome and results. So between your thoughts, there's only one thing that can impact your thoughts, and that's your environment, which never gets a say in that. But that's something of just what you've just said. If people can be aware that the majority of life is from what they're thinking and what they're around, you can really start to just start redirecting that needle very, very quick.
There's so many different train tracks that we can follow, mate. This has been an awesome conversation, man. I do want to start winding up because I do have other appointments I need to get to today. But yeah, this has been an incredible conversation. Yeah, no, dude, as much as I'd love to sit here and talk shit and turn it into a 3-hour Joe Rogan conversation, I've got other shit that I need to do, unfortunately. But I definitely need to get you back on, mate. I'm sure there's going to be some really good feedback from this conversation. But just to wind up, the name of this podcast is Live, Train, Perform, which stands for live life to the fullest, train to your potential, and perform at your best. What does that mantra mean to you?
I fully agree with it. You've got to be at your best to show up for everything else at your best. You can't show up for the world, your kids, your family, your business, your team, the best if you're not your priority. So the mantra is bang on the nail.
Love it, mate. I really appreciate your time, brother. I'm going to have your social media links in the show notes. If you can please send through all of the other links for all the other businesses that you're working on. And if people want to get in contact with you, if they want to support you on your journey, where can they find you? Where's the best way to find you?
Just Simon Hall on the majority of things. My tags on social media are pretty much where I hang around these days online is Simon Hall BC. The BC is my first ever business. My growth and collapse. I still can't get away from that handle. But Simon Hall BC.
Yeah, cool, man. Mate, I really appreciate your time and this conversation. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, top man. I appreciate it, Sean. I can't wait to get back over there and train with you again as well.
Keen as, mate. Keen as to catch up and get some training in, bro. We'll chat soon, eh? Peace. And there we have it, my conversation with Simon Hall of Nourish Life. Just before I wind up the episode, I just want to make a quick announcement. As I approach 100 episodes and roughly 23,000 downloads, I am going to start pulling back my output of the content that I'm putting out on the podcast to one episode per week, which will drop on Mondays. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm looking to move into phase 2 of my business plan, where I can start building out my website, recording training programs, and putting together nutrition ebooks and things like that, so I can start servicing people a little bit more. So thank you very much for your understanding and for the ongoing support. If you enjoy the podcast, please make sure you pass it off to your friends and family. Any 5-star ratings and reviews are much appreciated. Much love, guys. Peace.